Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. Do we have an episode for you today? I can't believe we've recorded over 140 episodes now, and a third of those have been Monday Mindsets. And we have not talked about this topic.
I know.
You know this topic is one of my bread and butters.
I know.
What is that topic? Got to keep listening, winners, and you'll find out. But before we get into it, please be sure to subscribe, share, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And want to give a shout out to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his best-selling Amazon book, Mindset is My Degree, for sponsoring today's episode. Thank you, Nick Menard.
You're very welcome. Hello, winners. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. So, the topic that is near and dear to me and to my co-host Nick is the 6 Leadership Styles by Daniel Goleman. So for those of you who may not know who Daniel Goleman is, he is a Harvard professor, very well known for his work around emotional intelligence. But about 15 years ago or so, he took this concept of leadership styles, which have been around since the 50s or 60s. You'll see like similes of what we'll cover today with other people, but he really kind of polished it and put a finer point on it. And it's had a major influence. So it was introduced to me by a former coworker, somebody who I reported to, named Michelle Shawinski, and just really resonated with me. So we're going to talk about a little bit about that today. So any high-level thoughts you want to share on this before we dive in?
Under your leadership, I also learned a lot more about Goldman theory, and I love it because you can find a lot of different theories about leadership style online on Google. I mean, but this one is the one that I believe is the most accurate and the easiest to explain, understand, and coach. So I really like that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the things about it and why I talk about it often when people come to me to chat about leadership is inherently we all have a innate leadership style, a style that's like our de facto go-to. But as you know, rarely can you do a one-size-fits-all approach with leadership style because people differ, situations differ. Some styles work better than others depending on the situation. And so it helps to have, variety of tools in the tool belt, so to speak, and have some agility to flex the style that's going to be best. Because again, we talked about how we define leadership in previous podcasts. And one of the ways we define it is, can you inspire people to do things they otherwise wouldn't be able to do on their own? To do that, you need to be using various leadership styles to help influence that kind of behavior. So I'm excited to cover this, and hopefully our winners, our listeners, enjoy it and take a few nuggets away as well.
Absolutely. Let's dive into it.
So for those of you who are wondering, what are Daniel Goleman's 6 leadership styles? They are coercive, authoritative, or visionary. Coercive, also known as directive. So I'll use some similes here. So coercive, directive is one. Authoritative, visionary is the other. Affiliative is the third. Democratic is the fourth. Pace setting is the fifth. And coaching is the sixth. So I'm going to put you on the spot right off the bat. What would you say is your default primary leadership style?
All right. So before I answer that question,
and then we'll define them all for people. Then they'll be like, oh.
No, I mean, I do believe if you want to be a complete leader, you need to be able to utilize each of them at any point. At some point in your career, based on your teams, on your individual associates, or anything like that, you will use different leadership style. But like you mentioned, we all have a predominant one. All right, and we don't need to go away from it. If someone tells you this one is the most important, I still believe that you should be able to hold tight to the one that is dear from your heart, but you need to be able to improve at least one other one to be your second principle. So always when I'm coaching my leader, I think we should all have predominantly 2 and then be able to do the rest. Usually the authoritarian, like you mentioned, this is the one that we try to to stay away from, but it's important to be able to utilize for the difficult conversations and things like that. Because
Mhm.
if someone is unable to do anything and is not coachable, there is a point that we need to use that leadership style. But I don't believe it should be the main one. Otherwise, it's not leadership. It's literally like a dictator.
Mhm.
So come back to your question. My number one, and it's clearly number one, is pace setting.
Uh-huh.
So pace setting is different like that. Why? Because I do believe in having a high performance team, region, organization when I'm in business in something, and I do believe that it's important to have clear target, clear goals, and literally never deviate from your target and overachieve in it. And someone asked me yesterday actually, how do you define a top performer? Being a top performer organization.
Mm.
For me, it's an organization who is with above target on a consistent level while having a mindset to never be satisfied with
Mhm.
wherever they are today. They always try to improve and
Sounds
things
like the
like that.
growth mindset.
Yeah, you see that?
Oh wait, look at behind you.
And behind
Look
you.
at
So that's definitely something for me that is proven. So this is number one. And my number two close one is coaching. I
Mhm.
do believe that a leader who doesn't know, doesn't want, or doesn't feel like coaching is important, that's probably a problem, because a leader is only a leader if they can create other leader. That's my definition of it. So yeah, pace setting number one, coaching number two, but be able to use the other four as well.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think, that's the thing sometimes people get caught up in. They're like, oh, what's the right style or what's the best style? It's really not about that. It's really about self-awareness and being reflective. And like if you have a tendency, like you're saying, it's pace setting or coaching, oh, great. You know that tendency. And then when you get in certain situations, you can identify like, okay, maybe I need to flex a different style for this particular situation. So that's great, right? Again, you think of a carpenter, right? That they're not going to use a saw to hammer in a nail. You got to use the right tool
Mm-hmm.
for
Toolbox. Mm-hmm.
for what you need to do. So, no, that's very good. So let me describe some of these.
What up? No. You're
Oh,
not
you're
gonna
not letting me
escape
off the
that.
hook?
What about you? Define your number one and number two over there, because you were my leader years
Yeah.
ago, and I know very well, and you are one of the reasons why I really love this, and that I continue. And I love the fact that you keep saying, master something instead of being okay at a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
you allowed me to continue to master the pace setting
Mhm.
piece, and I really appreciate it, because I know from other organizations sometimes you have like someone who said no, you need to be that. So
No.
you definitely went away from this. But what is your top two?
Well, I will say, I'll give you a little shout out. When you took the bottom performing team and had 2 years, the global number one team, I guess it worked. So yeah, kudos to you and to that team. That was
Thank you.
a heck of a team. All right. So, for me, it's visionary, authoritative. I like to consider myself somebody who can paint the picture of the vision. We've talked in the past on the podcast about Start With Why, Simon Sinek, connecting the dots, things like that. So that's my MO. I try to keep one eye in the present, one eye in the future, and so I do that. And my second one would be coaching as well. Like I enjoy that as well. I used to uh, coach basketball, youth basketball when my kids were younger. I enjoy helping people, uh, you know, tap into their potential and make most out of their talent. So we share that in common as a secondary style.
Love it. And yeah, I knew of course that, but I think it's important that people understand, okay, we can be great leader and have
Hmm.
different style.
Oh
and
yeah.
and I think that it's proven across, we know a bunch of people who have different style on the Goldman 6 leadership style, and
Hmm.
are extremely effective. So if you're not one of those three that we mentioned, it doesn't mean you're a bad leader or you're not
Oh
on the
yeah.
right side.
No.
You just need to be able to utilize them based on situations.
Yeah, and we'll start with the first one, coercive or known as directive, because that's kind of the old, I like to call it the 1950s style leadership where thou shalt, very directive, command and control. And so, basically, like if you use a phrase, do as I tell you. So it's very telling oriented. Um, but that does have its place. So a lot of people think, oh, performance management, the default style should be directive or coercive. That's actually incorrect. The
Mm-hmm.
default style should be coaching. And then if that doesn't work, you move to directive or coercive. But this example, I know you heard me say this example a lot of times, but if we were in the office and there was a fire, I wouldn't use a democratic style. Like, where do you think you should go? Where do you think you should go? I'd be like, no, get out that door, go down the stairs and take the door to the left.
The next question.
So that everything has a time and a place. But I will say the coercive directive style is the style you should use the least. So if that's your default, so think of principles with a ruler on kids' fingers. If that's your default, tuck that away. Just use it every once in a great while when needed and flex the other styles. So again, it's about having self-awareness, not about judgment, but that is one of the 2 leadership styles out of the 6 that if used consistently will have a negative impact on culture and morale. You can typically find people who employ that style, they typically will have performance, but they have high rates of attrition, low employee satisfaction, and they're constantly churning. And they don't have a lot of followership because people know it's just about the numbers and not care about it. So, but the traits of it is it does provide clear direction, which is helpful. You expect compliance. Again, think thou shalt do this. Its biggest weakness is uncaring. You don't get a lot of followership. And if you want to improve on that style, wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It should be used sparingly. But any thoughts on the course of direct? I'm sure you've had leaders you reported to had that style. I know I had in the past, and they're not ones that I usually cite in terms of what to do.
Like you said, in time it's needed. Like I mentioned already, like difficult conversations needs to happen. In leadership, it's not all about pom-pom girls and cheerleading. It's also about having those tough conversations, and that's more. I'm always saying we need to telling by asking. It's something I use tons, but there is a time when we need to stop. Asking. We need to go into telling first. Never first going there. Always let the associates in sales or in service or in any kind of organization you are at. It's very important that you let the person figure it out themselves by doing the needed nudge or push in order for them to be able to figure it out themselves, because it's in their mind, it's like their own discovery, even though you push in that direction, and they will be holding themselves accountable a lot faster than if it comes from us. Okay, but if we try this and it's still not sticking and it's 5 to 12 and like it's not a like it's not a, how do you say that, like a non-profit organization. So you need to go into, listen, this is what's needed this week. I want you to do this, this, and this. So that's a time to use the more directive approach. But if you keep doing this nonstop, then people will leave you, or you will not create a leader the way they should be created.
Right.
So you will give the wrong direction for them to become a leader, because they will be a leader like that themselves, and it's going to push other people away, and it's actually create the wrong leadership style for your organization or for your team. So always very carefully using this one, but it's definitely needed for some situations.
Yeah, and so to give some quick historical context to just bring it to life, for those who are history buffs, think George Patton, the former general in World War II, very command and control style leadership. Early Steve Jobs also was very command and control, very directive. Not a lot of warm and fuzzy with that one, but he did grow as he evolved. So let's take Nick's primary style next, pace setting. So pace setting, basically like the modus operandi of that is to set and keep high performance standards. You set a bar for excellence. That's the standard. You hold people accountable to it. If you convert it to a phrase, it's do as I do now. So like you would never ask your team to do things that you weren't willing to do, but you set the pace, like this is where we need to go. This is what's possible. If you're encountering roadblocks, let's work through it together. But you were the flag bearer, the torch. You're like,
If I can
here's the
add,
goal.
if I can add something there, so
Sure.
this is also, it's not only do as I do now, it's do as I show you how now.
Yeah.
Meaning,
Show, share, observe.
meaning, if by doing the right thing with the pace setting leadership, you will have results. Like you mentioned, you will have results, not because of me, because of the team, but because of the little nudge you did and the way you lead.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you have success, extremely important to elevate that success to the rest of the organization,
Mm-hmm.
because they will see it works. And it's all about showing a proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen, this is the first win we have the first week. And that's how I turn this team around. Like, oh my God, congratulations to X. She was able to achieve this. All right, how did you do it? Oh, I did exactly this. Great. So I put actually the situation in the end of an associate for the other associates to bought in a lot faster than if it comes only to me. That's why I want to, yes, you need to start as a leader to have the message and to set the expectations. But as soon as you have a win, you take the benefits out of your hands and you showcase what works. So that's actually, they will say, do as I do now from an associate.
Yeah.
So you stay away. Otherwise, you become more like a dictator. And as well, like, you see, what I told you to do works. And that's where it's a narrow line. But if you do it the right way, it will be perceived as the team is actually, achieving it, and the team is actually showing how to do it. So it's very important to have that kind of things happening. Otherwise, you will set the tone the wrong way, I think.
You know what? It's got a little bit of a flavor to it. 1% push.
It does.
So when to use pace setting? When you need results quick. Like, that's one of the things, like you want to get kind of like a shock and awe, if you will, with performance and get things moving. The thing about it, to your point, you modified it so it had a little bit of softer edges, but at its core, if you use pace setting all the time, you will burn your team out because nothing's ever good enough. And remember, I know we used to joke about this when we would have like really high performance and they'd be like, well, you're at 95.1. How do you get to 95.3? It's like, sweet Lord, really? But that's the crux of pace setting. So extremely useful to use. Use it, think like a doctor. Use it surgically. Follow my co-host's advice. If you're leading a team, involve the team members to kind of do it, because that it'll resonate a little differently. But if you use it all the time, it will have a negative effect on coaching. If you use it selectively, it can really propel the team to high performance, help them build the habits where they can consistently then perform. And now you have yourself a high-performing team.
Bam. We're dropping knowledge here by Mr. Will Schmidt.
Dropping knowledge. So a famous person who I think completely embodies the pace-setting approach is Michael Jeffrey Jordan of the Chicago Bulls, because he was doing what he was going to do. You either follow him and raise your game up to his standards, or you be left behind. But either way, he was going to give it his all.
I couldn't agree more. We didn't review anything before the podcast, so I didn't know what he was going to share. But it's actually very, very true when you think about it. It's when someone is never satisfied with something and always is searching for what's next. What can I do better? What can I do more? And it's not for everybody. Like you said, it may burn a lot of people because, like you mentioned, when we reach, for example, if you have a sales cap that you need to achieve like 80% by the end of the month of whatever you're selling, and then you are at 90%, that's huge, a 10% gap. But then you said, well, okay, get to 91, 92. The people who have that mindset, like Michael Jordan, for example, or people in your team who are never satisfied, they will love that, but all the rest who are usually more, struggling to get to the target, then they reach a target and they want to do differently or more. They may not want to go differently and more. And they're like, oh my God, I just achieved for the first time. And now you ask me to go like, so that's why the importance of celebration is very important. Yeah. Celebrate the win, the little win. And that's how your team will actually go next step. But if you just assume that it's normal and you move on, okay, you achieve it, great. Now we do that. That's not going to work. That's not going to fly. So make sure to have those celebration moments, this little win, high five, having a huddle, or having the little ring bell for a lot of sales team are doing. Yeah. And it's something to celebrate as a team. in order to for them to be motivated to have more of those.
Oh yeah, 100%. So another last thing on this one as a visual, you either get on the train because it's moving fast or you get left at the station. That's pace setting. There you go. There
Bang!
it is. All right, next, let's go with a democratic. I think democratic, there's a few, these next couple of styles are ones that for certain personality types, it's easy for people to fall into. And again, they can be very effective, but sometimes they can be detrimental if used in the wrong context. So, democratic should be pretty self explanatory for most people. You get participation from the group, you get other ideas. It's a more of a collaboration. You may come in with a point of view, but really everyone has the floor to kind of share their idea, and you're trying to build consensus or, worst case, a majority opinion to move forward. Um, in a phrase to describe this, what do you think? So it's not about the leader bestowing, and this sometimes is funny where people will say they use democratic style, and when they're like, so I'd like to get your feedback on X, and then they go on a 5-minute diatribe about why they think it's a great idea before you even have a chance to respond. That's not democratic.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a subtle coercive. So just something to think about there. Works best when you really want to get deep team buy-in. So think about that unity, togetherness, make that things happen. You shouldn't use it if you have a team that disagrees often. So I was part of a team not that long ago where everyone had a different position. And the leader of that team at the time really tried his best, and now he's in a different role, but he tried his best to get people
Failed.
to build consensus. It just wasn't going to work. So that was not the style. Even though he tried to be inclusive, tried to use it, it was not effective with the
Mm-hmm.
composition of the team, and things like that. But one of the weaknesses of it is it's slower, right? So when you think about coercive directive, that's quick, right? Pace setting, quick. Democratic, it takes a while. Think Senate, right? You're trying to build, get a caucus around a majority view on something. It takes time because not everybody's going to agree on everything from the onset. So if you need something quick, probably not the best style to use, but it can be useful in certain situations.
Yeah, for me, democratic, I would use that mainly or only when you take over a high performing team.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a high performing team, people know how to be successful. People know what works. And that's where, as a new leader, I would avoid having like a completely change of voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let them lead. And you can always tweak, of course. You can start as a democratic and change. But if I come in and the team is top performer in whatever department I'm going to, I would have more a democratic approach. I want to hear
Mm-hmm.
them because they know already what successful means and how to achieve it. So I will be just go with the flow based on what they do. But if you take a bottom performer team or a team who needs a lot of change, I would probably stay away in the beginning of using a democratic approach.
Yeah, I agree. I think the other situations I use it is brainstorming for ideas if there's not a clear solution
Projects.
because you try to get different points of view and ideas. Or if I don't have a strong opinion on something and I'm kind of good with alternatives, like I'm good with option A or option B, then I'll use democratic and see what the majority prefers, and I'm happy to go with it. So
Very
it
true.
does have its spots, but sometimes people use, to your point, they use democratic, and that's not the style to use to get the team to go to the next level. So quickly, affiliative. Think of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Like friendly. Affiliative can be a great leadership style to build a positive team culture, make people feel like you're embracing empathetic leadership. And it can also, if you create a country club environment, lead to low performing teams. So you have to be careful. It's natural, especially we're in an organization that has a service division that we lead. People who tend to go into service roles typically are people. They like people. They're friendly. It's the default style for quite a few leaders that I see, but you have to be careful to not use it in the wrong situation and it could have adverse implications. But again, think of building bonds, harmony, people come first. Great for relationships and team building. If you're taking over a low performing team or you have a team where there's been some real issues, can be a great
Mm.
method to kind of get people to move beyond that. But it's not good if it's a poor performing team and they don't respond quickly, because again, you're more concerned about the relationships. And if the performance is really poor, again, you need to use something like pace setting or coaching. Um, but the other weakness is it avoids difficult decisions. So you mentioned earlier
Mm.
about like performance management and things like that. Affiliative styles sometimes struggle with performance management unless they really are conscious and work on it, because they don't like tension.
No,
They like harmony.
it's a go-to for amiable a lot of times,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just it's all about timing. So I would say I like to use that when it's a brand new person coming in with no business experience.
Mhm.
So when you have someone coming out straight off college and join your organization, your business, and you wanna set them in.
Mhm.
You want to set them in. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable. They don't feel like overwhelmed from the start, and make sure to go slow and build that culture that's already there or not there with the team in question. But like you mentioned, it's more for the culture building, which is on the mission of discovery and stuff. So you do all of that before you get into the business aspect, because you need that culture to be there in order to have a strong foundation. So probably in the beginning of a team, or when you implement someone with no experience, I would probably use that a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's just it has its place. Just make sure you use it in the right way. Uh, Coaching, actually, real quick, a resource that kind of embodies the affiliative leadership style, but also uses a lot of these other styles. A book is the Five Dysfunctions of a Team
Mhm.
by Patrick Leoncioni, because that was a team they took over where the culture was terrible. Started with the affiliative and then branched and used the other. So it's a good book if you want to learn more about how to apply these styles. Coaching, pretty straightforward. You're developing people, you're investing in their skill development for the future. In a phrase, you would say, try this, right? Like, think about this, asking questions, not telling answers to find more. Great as a method to build team development. Certainly works best where you have people who are motivated, they want to advance in their career, they want to learn, they want to grow, they want to be better. Doesn't work if you got somebody who's a fixed mindset, doesn't want to be coached. So it's, you can ask all the questions in the world. If you get the meh or the one word response, probably using the wrong style because it's not
Mm-mm.
connecting with that person. But it can be great connecting the person to the vision. So we'll talk about that visionary style last. This is another one, good, really good culture builder, but does take time. Like, I personally, there's times where I'm talking to somebody, I just want to blurt out the answer and just be like, no, just go do it. But I'm getting better at holding, biting my tongue and asking questions and try to lead them in the path of enlightenment, a roundabout way versus direct. So you do have to be patient and be willing to ask questions. Definitely something more of a longer term leadership style and your secondary style
Yeah,
as well as
I
mine.
I agree.
Yeah.
Telling that's the telling by asking style. I think that's the one you should spend the most time on, unless it's burning. All right, or because that's the style where you can improve the skills of your team as well.
Mhm.
So for whatever is next for them, so you can have a development plan for them. What do you want to do next if they are successful in the current role? That's where the coaching will come to pass as well. So improvement, slow pace improvement, the coaching is needed in order to be like a little percent better each and every day.
1% push.
1%
One
push.
push and push. Yeah. So last thing about this style, this is great to drive innovation
Hmm.
because people feel supported and not afraid to make mistakes. And last, but certainly not least, the authoritative visionary style. So when you want to mobilize a team toward a vision, come with me, paint the picture, the horizon. There's the great oasis ahead when you're in the middle of the desert. Great for building confidence and also empathy. Works best when people need a vision, when maybe there's uncertainty or there's not a lot of clarity, or maybe there's been a rough patch. Visionary can help lift people to see the horizon on that. You don't want to necessarily use it if you're not and really well versed in what you're going to talk about. Like if your team knows a lot more than you, and you try to paint this picture, they're gonna be like, "What are you trying to tell me?" Stuff like that. So, if you have a highly skilled team, you can still use visionary, but just make sure you're thoughtful about what you're painting the vision on, so they're not like, "What does this person know?" Compared to us. Doesn't work on anyone, but definitely motivational. And a way to really augment visionary is to support it with data. So again, some people are moved by emotion. Some people are moved analytically. Effective visionary leaders use both, and that casts the widest net. But any thoughts on
Yeah,
that
it's
one?
literally you. So you. I mean, again, I believe that if you are great at it, authoritative one, you have your business unit, your team, your organization in your of your hands, and they will go to war for you. It's not easy for me to get there, but you proved it over and over again that you can bring people there because of your vision and the way you share it and the way you want people to just join you, like more than just pulling people. You just open and people join. You have that attribute about yourself. But when you do that, the buy-in is immediate. After that, it's very hard for people to leave it because they love and they feel included and they feel part of the vision. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think it's a very hard one to get, but you definitely can. And if you have those capabilities or willing to learn how to get there, this is probably one that will fix a lot of issues. It's not fast and easy, but when you get there, then you can literally do everything.
Yeah, no, well said. And I think one of the keys with the authoritative visionary style is diverse leadership styles working with you. So like you need people who have their feet on the ground, while in my case, sometimes my head is in the clouds, right? Because I'm thinking of what can be and trying to paint that picture. So there you have it. Some variety of styles, some historical context in some situations, some practical examples of when to use it and when not to use it. So if you really like this, winners, let us know. We can talk about this more in future episodes, but please check out Daniel Goleman's 6 Leadership Styles study. It's an easy read, easy study, and self-reflect and think about your styles and where you can use different styles in different situations. So that will do it today. And thanks again to Nick Menard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon bestselling book, Mindset is My Degree, for sponsoring today's episode. Spread the word. We're on all the major platforms. Please share, subscribe, and follow 2 for the win if you're not doing that already. If you are, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And that'll do it for this Monday Mindset. Be well, winners.
Bye, winners.